So what is chi? I know y'all definitely have felt chi now, but chi, as you can see, there's so many ways that we've been expressing it in humanity for a long time. So we have chi or chi with the Q. Prana is the way the yogic people talk about it. Mana, that's the word they use for in all the Polynesian and like even Hawaiian cultures. They use the word mana. Ki is from Japan's culture. Spirit is from like the Native American, Central America, Latin American. Life force energy. Spirit is also used in the Western world, especially like Greek and the Romans. They use spirit or life force energy. Modern times, people sometimes use electromagnetic. Sometimes they'll use bioelectrical. We're all talking about the same thing. So yeah, chi is the living, intelligent movement of life itself, expressed as breath, sensation, circulation, emotion, and awareness within the body and nature. So this is a very smart definition, yet it can get pretty confusing because there's a lot of ways in which you're experiencing chi. Chi is a base layer of your experience, is the blueprint in which this physical form is actually even being taught and experience. So, direct ways that we are experiencing is through the breath. It's pretty obvious when you take a really good meditative breath. But the sensations, you're feeling it. The circulation, you're feeling it. The emotions, you're definitely feeling it. When we look into the chakras, you'll see it even more clearly. And then your awareness. This is where you're concentrating the chi. So that is a very important aspect to it. When I say within body and nature, this is huge because most people are still thinking themselves as just the body. But as y'all have probably experienced it and how we'll continue to experience it, there is no real boundary between who are you and what is the Tao around you. And so what I will be teaching more than a lot of the other people is to utilize and be in harmony with the Tao, with nature, and be in that coherence and that relationship with the Tao, with the chi around you. So there are many layers of chi. We've went through a little bit today through the values. Those are just the movements, but we'll go through different types of chis, different vibrations, dimensions, and stuff like that. We'll go into that in a bit. And so why do most people not know this chi? It's a pretty crazy one. As spiritual people, we're often feeling it. We're also talking in energy. You have people like Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla. They're all talking about how everything's vibration. Yet most people are not living in that understanding that everything is just energy. And this is because they're living outside of the body. They're looking at the external world. They're not paying attention to the relationship. And this shows up as nervous system overstimulation, stress in the brain, beta brain waves that we'll talk about, so forth. And so, yeah, the subtle precedes, I said strong, but the subtle precedes the physical. And so what I mean by that is they both are in relationship. They both, if you fix the physical, you fix your spine, you're fixing your energy circuit. But which we'll see in a sec, how energy actually is flowing from the Tao, it goes to the subtle and to the physical. So it's flowing from zero and from the Tao into the subtle and to the physical. So I love these quotes. I think the quotes that I have really are huge, simple ways of explaining these things. This one's one of my favorite ones of all time. Fish live in water, yet are unaware of the water. Humans dwell in chi, yet no, they are not chi. So this just shows how crazy it is to most people. We're just walking around in this world of subtle energies and vibration, and yet most people are not aware, just like a fish in the water. All right, so how to sense it. I know we kind of went through this earlier, but I'll give y'all a quick one, especially so that you haven't teach other people. But the senses are the portals for our experiences. You can sense chi through all the senses. This includes also your chakras. Your chakras are also senses. A lot of people say you will have 12 senses, including the 7 chakras. But what we primarily will experience it from a physical sense, would be the five senses. So the most common and usually the easiest for people to feel is to feel chi. So, I mean, this is that felt experience. This is, it's in your skin, it's in your blood, it's in your body. But we'll go through other ways. I'll teach y'all how to see it, or at least how to train to see it. And I'll also teach y'all how to smell it, how to taste it, and everything like that. There are extra sensitive points across the body, like the meridian points, the acupressure points. We talked about a few of them already. Talked about the bubbling spring and this Laogong point. This is a very essential one we'll be using a lot. To find the Laogong point, it's pretty simple. You just close your hand comfortably, and whatever the spot in between the middle finger and the ring finger is where it will be. This is where all your energy will come out of. My favorite way of explaining it is for you nerds out there. When you're watching a bunch of like movies or animations and stuff, they always have energy come from that spot. And so it's, our voice is coming from the life experiences. So when you're feeling the chi coming to your hand, and you want to send it, when you want to use it to move energy around, this is that central point you want to concentrate on. We'll go into this a little bit further, but I'll do a brief explanation. This point also is connected to the crown chakra, as well as when you're putting this together in prayer, you're connecting that circuit of the crown chakra energy. This is why every religion has come to this conclusion when you're bowing down and giving thanks, gratitude, creating that unity consciousness in your own body. So yeah, these are some of the methods that we're going to go through. We have the open closed chi drawing method. This is the most simple, basic, but probably the most powerful way of getting people to sense chi. Then we have the chi gazing method. It's a slight variation that uses the open and close, but it'll allow you to start trying to see aura, the wu chi, the defensive chi, and even can go further. It's just the way you develop seeing it, using your third eye instead of your physical. Stillness awareness and breath tracking are also really good ways. Vipassana is the best way to really work on your energy. And then breath practices, the breath and chi, they're so correlated to each other. Any breath practices is a chi practice. So we'll be doing a lot of breath work. The senses are tools of perception. Chi can be felt, heard, seen, and known through them. I think some of us have experienced at least the feel, but we'll learn how to sense it through all the portals that we are given. Any questions from this one?
Yeah, I got a question. So is the Laodong point like the center of where the toroidal field like where it begins on the hands?
Yes.
Okay. And so does chi stream into the entire body like through like at every point, but then more so at that point?
Right. So how the toroidal field is formed, like Connor was saying, is there are certain points that are like more access points for the energy to circulate. But when you look at a toroidal field, you see that it's kind of involved in all aspects of it. It's shooting out from everywhere. But there are very significant points like the Laogong point, like the bubbling spring, and the 100 convergence, the crown chakra, and there's some other key points that we'll talk about. Another huge one for the wu chi would be the elbow, the outer elbow. It's associated with the heart meridian. We worked on it a little bit today. Any more questions before we go to this one?
Yeah, what's the 100 convergences again?
Crown chakra. So the formation of chi, this diagram is a very important diagram, and it can be expanded upon, and it can be a little altered, but it's super important, and it's the Fibonacci sequence and the way in which energy actually is formulated. So chi and prana can be divided up into different sections, from dense to subtle, directions, geometry, and function. What I mean by this is, we'll go a little bit more in depth in a bit, but you can feel different types of energy. An easy way of explaining it is through like the elements. They have different types of denseness and subtleties. Directions, we worked on the values today, the winds of prana. That's what I mean by direction. They move in very certain ways, but it's not its own subsection, but it is its own movement. Geometry, this is going to be a pretty huge one. We're going to talk more about geometry of stuff. I kind of referenced it when I'm talking about like the sharpness of the metal value. But there's direct mathematical geometries that correlate with each of the types of chi and also the directions. And then the functions, each of these things have different functions, different reasons for the elements or for the chi to be even created this way, or we wouldn't have all these subsections and all these directions. So chi flows from the Tao into the creation following the same universal pattern as the golden ratio. So if you realized anything about the golden ratio, it is a very significant mathematical pattern that we see throughout. One of the easiest ways to see it is just by using your visual apparatus. So if you look at something like some plants or an octopus or anything like that, you'll see how everything is forming through this. What I mean by that is that we're watching energy flow from the quantum field, the Tao, this point of non-duality, into Wuji and Taiji. What this means is these are the two ones. Wuji is kind of like that oneness, that wholeness, the thing that like starts creating the vessel for everything. And Taiji is more about movement, the reason why creation is even happening. So there can be understood as the same, that's why they're one and one, but they're, two sections of the same creation, which is why we go to yin and yang. This is pretty obvious to see throughout humanity, the yin and yang. It's pretty obvious, without black, you can't see white, and vice versa. But then we see that the pattern continues to Trinity. We see this throughout all religions. You have the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit is a very common one in the Western world. But this Trinity works in so many facets. For example, the Dantians. We have 3 Dantians. And so the 3 Dantians play a crucial role in our energy system, in our own Trinity. Furthermore, we got the elements. This is the 5 elements from all the traditions. All the traditions with the air and space. So it'll be earth, water, fire, air, and space. But even the Lu Jing that we'll talk about, which is the traditional Chinese medicine form, and that would be earth, water, fire, wood, and metal. And then it'll go into even more stuff, like we can separate to 8, which is the path to liberation. Every religion that actually talks about trying to find liberation, it's always an 8-step path. You have the 8 limbs of yoga, the eightfold path of Buddhism, and it continues further. And so in Taoism, what they explain when they're talking about this system is they're saying that in the Fibonacci, it goes infinitely, right? And so what they'll usually say is that it goes from the Tao into the 10,000 things. 10,000 is just the word they use for infinite. They're just trying to show how crazy it goes, because it'll just keep going forever. So this framework right here, this Fibonacci sequence and this understanding is huge. I mean, we're seeing this Fibonacci sequence all the way into the cells, into the galaxies, the microcosm to the macrocosm. This is both physical, subtle. You'll see it throughout every experience. So we'll be playing around with this understanding throughout this retreat. Imbalances arises when this natural flow is disrupted or resisted. It's an important one. It's really hard to understand Qi from a material paradigm because you are usually thinking in black and white. But when you're working in the spiritual path, it's all about finding the middle ground. The narrow path of life is what Jesus said. And it's the same with Qi, in the fact that you do not want resistance. and you don't want to force it because both of those stop chi from flowing itself. So you really want to step back and let it flow through you and just observe it. This is why meditation is so important, why Vipassana is a great tool for chi practices. Let's see what Lao Tzu said. All things carry yin and embrace yang. Qi is the harmony between them. The middle ground. Any questions?
Yeah, so I want some clarification on the specifics from 0 to 2, and I guess the reason I asked is like from my understanding or framework, like I understand that 0 and that 1 point, those two potentialities of consciousness, whatever God you want to call it, and feeling into like, okay, you need the duality, the yin and the yang to create that that Tai Chi motion. So I'm just a little like that brain trying to conceptually understand like the Wu Ji and the Tai Chi is 1 and 1.
So how it is explained is the Tao is the everything. This is the closest words that in this tradition they would consider, what most people consider God. But when Wu Ji, what 0 to 1 is the Big Bang. So it is that creation force. But this is why the creation is so confusing, is because not only did it create space, but space and time are the same. So you can really think of this as the same as space and time. Because without space, you're not having the movement of time. Without time, you're not having the space around. I guess the easiest way to explain it. You can also think of it as like the vessel, the avatar, in which it is experiencing, and then the experience that's having. And so why yin yang is just like the polarity, right? Yeah, exactly. And so it gets really confusing because you can't ever understand in this lifetime really what 0 to 1, how does that even happen? You're not supposed to. You're supposed to just experience the 1, 2. But the 0 is our connection to source itself, the Tao.
I feel like my most profound states are contemplating 0 or 0 to 1. Not that I can understand it, but just the miracleness of that something's here in the right movement.
That's the only way we can understand the Tao as creation itself, is 0 to 1. This, how can we understand 0 if it's beyond duality?
Is there a gender associated with Wu Ji and Tai Chi, or?
You can. They usually do Tai Chi as the masculine, and then Wu Ji as the feminine. It's pretty non-dual. You grab one. I was on no harm, so yeah, it's how it ways. I wouldn't really keep one at each other.
Do you know if there's been any studies on people who have mystical experiences, if there's any commonalities in terms of personality characteristics? Like, are certain people more prone to mystical experiences, or is it very random?
Everyone's having a mystical experience. It's just already realizing it. Right. And so the common thing is just, how present are you?